This is a Kenmore Sensor Sew 70, 385.1950280. All right, and this machine is locked up. As you can see, probably here, it won't turn. Let's see, even, that's interesting. Even if I pull the release for the bobbin winder, still won't turn. So that gives me a lot more information. That means it's probably not the machine itself. Could be the motor maybe. But I'm going to show you some stuff to diagnose. I'm going to show you some stuff to diagnose a machine that's locked up. So normally what I'll do is I will open up the bobbin case and I want to look at the needle bar, and I'm going to start trying to turn this back and forth and see I try to see if my bobbin's moving or not. It does move some, not much. I find it weird that popping is the belt in there. So I'm thinking my motor's got a problem and the motor's keeping me from turning it. Anyway, yeah, normally this moves. This has some movement to it. Normally you can get some movement out of this, and you look at what's not moving, and what's not moving is where your problem is, where the moving stops. Because normally it will move just a little bit, and like this moves here. Okay, I'm seeing it moving it with my hand. I can see movement right here. Okay, because of this because of this popping issue, I really think it's the belt. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart. I want to pull this end off. I've got a screw right here. I'm going to remove that. There we go. Doesn't want to just fall out. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. All right, now. Okay, so I want you to see this. Okay, I'm going to try to turn this. You see this belt, how it's flexing on each side as I turn back and forth, right? But this pulley is not moving whatsoever. It's not moving in the least. So my problem is my motor. In fact, if I try to turn it hard enough, you can see that it's just popping inside the belt. So I'm going to loosen this motor and get the belt off of it, and then we'll see if the machine will turn. So I'm going to do that real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just removed the 3 screws so that the motor moved around. I'm not sure exactly how it adjusts, probably right here, and I'll have to pull it out to see, but I wanted to get the belt off, so I pulled the 3 screws out, got the belt off, and this turns. My machine's not turning though. Oh, that right there. That's why, yeah, there we go. That's why nothing was moving a while ago. I had the clutch disengaged. So now, thing works like a charm. Works like a charm. So the belt is what was locking it up. All right, so I'm gonna get this opened up and get the motor pulled out and see what I can find with it. See why it's locked up. More than likely, it's just it hadn't been lubricated. Motors have to be lubricated, and so I'll have to probably take it apart and get it freed up, and then lubricate it real good and get it going. And we'll talk about that because you got to lubricate them, but you can't just soak them in oil. So, all right, so I'm going to fix that, but I'm going to pull it all apart and see what's going on with it. See if it needs to be lubricated, which I'm sure it does. Clean it out. See if there's any other problems with it. So, actually, I haven't turned this on yet. I want to make sure that it'll even come on before I go this far. Because if it doesn't come on, then, well, it could possibly have fuses and have them blown out. But I don't want to put a lot of work into something that isn't going to be repairable. So it does come on. It does. It seems to work, maybe. Okay. Let's say 40. Okay. All right. It does work. Okay. Other than the motor, it works. So I'm going to shut that off and unplug it. Now I'm going to go ahead and start pulling it apart. Okay, so the first thing is to pull the top off. I'm going to pull the top off, then I'm going to pull the end off. So actually I'll need to open that. Remove this screw. That's a longer one. Remove this screw. That's a shorter one. And then that just pops right off. I'll close that, keep from losing anything. Move everything out of my way. Then I'm going to remove this end door. Get it out of the way. Need to be careful not to lose the screw. Okay. Okay, there's that. Screw goes in there. Okay. Now let's remove the plate and stuff here. And in fact, the needle too. So we want to get the needle out of the way so that I don't get stuck with it. Take the foot off so it's out of the way, and I have a visitor. I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to remove this plate and take the bobbin and bobbin case out. If you notice, there is a metal bobbin and a plastic bobbin case. You should really use plastic bobbins and plastic bobbin cases and metal bobbins and metal bobbin cases. It's going to reduce the wear. Metal will damage plastic when it's moving at higher speeds. Bobbins move at higher speeds. So you should use plastic on plastic and metal on metal. A couple of things that I see. A little bit of damage to the needle plate. And up in here, I see some dirt and lint and stuff that's going to have to come out. I'm going to clean this up and then lubricate all this real well. But first of all, I want to get that motor out and see if I can get it figured out and get it fixed. So I'm going to pull the bottom of this off while I've got it turned over. I'm also going to take this off. So let's get started here first. All right, take the needle plate out. You can see the damage. This has to be fixed. Okay, all this damage has to be fixed. So checking this bobbin case for damage. I see some damage right here. That needs to be fixed. I see a little bit of damage right here. All this looks minor, but this will absolutely start catching the thread, creating friction and slowing that thread down, which will cause your thread to start looping. Okay, so very, very important. This, with the damage on that with the damage on that needle plate, can cause you a lot of issues. There's a little bit of lint in here, not a whole bunch, but a little bit. I'll clean it up, but it's not looking bad. That's good. All right, let's get this turned over. And now we've got 2 large screws that go into the frame here. A screw here and a screw here. And let's see. Looks like this is a screw as well that's holding it, I believe. And this, I don't think, yeah, I guess it is. That's a screw holding it as well. So let's go ahead and get all this out of here. Okay, let's see if that'll, yep, comes right off. Cool. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. Okay. That doesn't look bad at all. Looks fairly clean. Either it hadn't hardly been used since last time it was cleaned, whenever that was, or somebody is doing a fairly good job of keeping it clean. That's good. Okay. So let's see about getting this motor out of here. Ah, look at this. Right here we go. It will unplug right there. So I've got it unplugged. Now I just need to pull it out. Okay, and it's going to come out to the right, just like that. Now, I'm going to move the machine out of the way so we can focus on the motor. All right, you see this thing just won't turn. It will not turn. It's locked up good. So we're going to start opening this, and we're going to get it open and figure out if it's fixable or not. So the first thing is to remove all this, and I've got I need something to remove those nuts. So I'm going to try this. I doubt it'll work. You should use a wrench or a socket. In this case, a socket. But I am going to try these. See how tight it is. Oh, hey, look at that. I didn't think it'd work, but it did. That one didn't that time. Let me try it again. Yep, there it is. Cool. It's not the recommended way of doing that. But it worked in this case. If you go to do this and it doesn't come loose right away, then I do suggest that you get the right wrench for it. Otherwise, you'll tear the nut up. All that, whatever that is looks like some sort of silicone or something on there. So they not only screwed it on, but they siliconed it on as well. That's kind Kind of crazy. Gotta be careful with this. I don't want to break it, but that silicone is, there we go. Really got it stuck. Not the best way to do this, in my opinion, putting silicone and stuff like this. No reason to have it stuck on there so hard. There we go. All right. Still no movement. I'll need to remove this pulley and then undo these and pull this apart, and then hopefully be able to pull the armature out. So I'm going to get the tools I need. All right, I have a 9/32 and a 3/8. 3/8 is here, 9/32 is here, and then I got this Allen wrench for here. So get that's loosening right up, moving real easy. So get that out of the way. Make sure not to, you don't really want to remove the Allen screw all the way. Don't want to lose it. Now let's go ahead and get this loosened. Get these two loosened, and I'm sure that, well, I thought that it might be difficult getting this off here with all that silicone or whatever it is on there, but it's not. It's coming off quite easy, actually. That's good. All right. Yeah. This one's a little harder, but not too bad. All right, now getting this out may be a whole nother thing. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so this whole piece came, the armature came out with this, which it shouldn't have. This piece should have come off the armature. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's a problem of its own, and that's the main reason why the motor was locked up. Now, we got some other issues. Okay, well, I need to get this apart. So, and I don't know, this may not go as well as I'd like it to. We'll see. Because we got some other issues right here. Okay, all this stuff falling out, this goes on the end of the shaft. Okay, it goes right here on this. There's spacers, and they need to be there. All right, I've got a big one here. There's actually a bunch of them in here. Let's get all these spacers out of here. Okay, so I've got, that's that. All right, I've got a rubber spacer, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the small red spacers, and then a large red spacer. The large red spacer is going to go on there first, like this. Okay, and then you'll have your smaller ones, and then probably the rubber. Okay, so you just got to make sure that you keep track of them, don't lose them. They're there to keep the motor from moving back and forth, or keep the armature from moving back and forth inside. Now, this is turning now a little bit. No, it's not. So you see the bushing? If you can see that, the bushing is turning, but not the armature. So I've got to get this out. I've got several different ways I can do this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of alcohol on it, denatured alcohol, and see if I can get that to break loose. The denatured alcohol is real good at removing this stuff, removing varnish and stuff, but it's in a really tight area, so it may take a few minutes for it to get in there. I'm just going to keep applying it here and rubbing it around. I can use some force on this. I'd rather not, but I can. I can't get into the other side here to get any alcohol on that. Not very well. All right. There it is. Just by putting it on there, give it a little bit of time, and then move it, and there it is. It comes apart. Now let's take a look at it before I clean it up. I want you to see. It's hard to see it in the camera, I think. Raise the light up maybe. And then zoom in, and I might be able to see it better. Okay, you see the discolorization? All that discolorization, especially back here, that's all varnish, and it's built up. What's varnish? It's dried oil. Okay, it's oil that's dried up and gotten hard, and that's why that happened. If you notice on this side, there really isn't any. It's pretty clear. I'm going to use sandpaper on it and clean it up. I'm going to clean this up with alcohol first. In fact, I touched this and it's sticky. It's very sticky. So I'm going to clean it up with alcohol first, and I'm going to use a little sandpaper on it as well. This has to be cleaned inside here, okay? Inside this bushing needs to be cleaned. Now, these motors need to be lubricated, all right? So let's talk about that. This is obviously the bushing that the shaft fits on. This is a retainer that holds the bushing in place. And right around here, you see that right there? That's a felt. That felt takes oil, okay? And that oil will slowly drip down onto here. But that felt is dry. That felt is completely dry. And because it's dry and it hadn't been oiled in probably since the day it was manufactured and put in the machine, then all the oil dried up, and it dried up on the shaft as well as here, which locked the motor down. Okay, so lubricating motors is very important. Okay, you've got the same thing here on this one. You see you got the bushing, and then the piece that holds the bushing, and then the felt around that. Okay, so what you don't want is you don't want oil all over this and all over this and all over your armature. Okay, this is not where you want oil. You want oil to just go here and just go here. All right, so how do you do that? By lubricating these felts. When the motor is on, okay, you can take here with it pulled apart. It's going to be real easy. All I got to do is just do this. But when you take your motor off, all right, when you take your motor off, let me see if I can get the light in here. You can see it right there. All right. You see the felt right there? Right in there? Okay. When the motor's on, not pulled apart, you can stick a straw through there just like that, and you can oil this. I'll put a little bit in there right now so you can see, and you see how that soaks up, right? You see how it just like, you see the oil coming out, and you see it soaking into that. I'm not going to put a lot on there right now because I got to do some cleaning in here, but I want you to see how that works. Okay, so now let's go ahead and clean this up. First thing I'm going to do is use some denatured alcohol, and I'm going to put in here. I want to clean this up real well. This alcohol will dry fairly quickly. All right, so this is a small brush. It's really too small, a little bit tiny, but it will work. And I can put some alcohol on that and then just go around in here like this. And that's going to help to scrub some of that out of there and get it loosened up. So when I run sandpaper through this, okay. All right, so a little bit there. And then we're going to do a little bit here. Okay, that'll be good for that. Now I'm going to take this other brush and I'm going to get some alcohol on both ends of this. Make sure I get this cleaned up really good. And I'm going to clean this up, especially this end. This is the one that was stuck. I want you to notice that there's actually two, black rubber and then a red, on spacers on there. Okay. All right. So that's pretty clean there. Let's get some. All right. I'm going to use 800 grit sandpaper on this. You can see right here, P800, 800 grit. Tear this. All right. Now, I'm going to clean both of these up, both of these ends. I'm also going to clean this up. This one's not in bad shape. Let's see if you can see it. There's lots of tiny grooves. Sometimes you'll get huge grooves. There's lots of tiny grooves. I want to clean this up and get as many grooves as I can out of this. This is very, very important. And also, this is where the electricity comes in from those brushes. Sometimes, or most of the time, you'll get a little bit of arcing. Sometimes when the brushes or this is in bad shape, you'll get a lot of arcing. If you get too much oil in this, you can start a fire in here. So you need to be very careful of that. You need to be mindful of how much oil you get in there. You know, you don't want to just douse the motor in oil. Okay, so first things first, get the shafts. Okay, just like that. That's looking pretty good. Now we'll do the other one, actually up here, right up next to the motor, or the fan. Okay, got that. So that's nice and cleaned up right there. All right, now I want to do this. I want to clean this, so I'm going to do it the same way, just like I done this. Wrap it just like this. It's a little bit more difficult, but it can be done. Get your fingers in the right spot around your sandpaper. And then you go back and forth like I'm doing, and turn it. You know, you don't want to create flats or anything. So turn it back and forth, and if you can see, there's going to be a lot of copper as well as other gunk on this sandpaper. Okay, right there, you can see it. I've cleaned that up some. There's still some damage to it. I don't know that I'm going to get it all, but I'll get some of it. I'll get it cleaned up fairly good, so that's a good bit better. It wasn't horrible by any means. It'd probably done just fine, but it's got a little bit of damage to it, so I should go ahead and fix it now. That way, hopefully this motor doesn't need any work, repair, or maintenance for the next 20 or 30 years. Obviously it really needs to be lubricated before then, but so far as pulling it apart like this, it shouldn't. Just when the machine gets serviced, then each end of the motor gets lubricated, and you don't have to pull it all apart and do all this. All right, there we go. It's looking good. We want to look at all these black marks and make sure that there's not copper and stuff built up there. If there is, we want to scrape it off. Each one of these is its own contact, and we don't want them arcing across. If they start arcing across, that's going to cause you a loss of power. It can also overheat your motor and destroy your windings, which will destroy your motor. Okay, so the point is you want the electricity to go in one side, go through the windings, and come out the other side. If you start going if your electricity starts traveling this way, then it's not going through the windings. Plus, you'll get arcing going along, which is going to start creating heat in this motor. Okay, anytime you see an arc, there's an extreme amount of heat that's produced by that arc. So very important, and you get a certain amount of arcing with the brushes to begin with. The more you have, the more heat it's going to produce, the more possible damage. So, all right, we've got that cleaned up. So let's go ahead and put it back together. Well, before we put it back together, first, like I said, I need to run sandpaper through these ends. I almost forgot. So I'm going to cut it or tear it and then bend it, roll it, whatever. Okay, got that. Now we'll do this one, and it's pretty clean overall. The alcohol pretty much tore up the sandpaper a little bit. Alcohol pretty much took care of getting everything out of it. Sandpaper just makes sure. So I'm going to make sure that I've got my felts lubricated. Okay, since I've got it apart, I'm going to do it just like this. And make sure I've got plenty of oil on those felts. Okay, I don't want it just dripping and dripping out, not just tons of it, but I do want it wet enough that it will drip onto the shaft a little bit at a time. I'm going to get that excess where I made a mess in there out. Okay, because I don't want it being all over the motor. Remember, you've got a fan, which is going to blow, and you definitely don't want that blowing it everywhere. All right, let's see. I'm going to put a little more on that felt. Now, with it pulled apart, I can get more oil on this felt while making sure that I don't get too much in there and I'm not going to get it all over the motor. But I can make sure that there's going to be plenty of oil on those felts to do the job correctly. All right, I think you probably can't see it, but those felts have expanded now. Yeah, you can't see it at all. Let me see if I say the felt in this end, it's only one. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell the difference there or not, but it is definitely expanded. So put a little bit more on it. And how do I know? I'm putting oil on it and it's not running out the other side. Okay? It's not just dripping down everywhere. Okay, there it goes. It dripped down this other side. So now I know for a fact that I have more than enough. I'm going to squeeze a little bit. Get some of that oil out. I don't want it all over in there like I said. But I do want to make sure that there's plenty on that felt to do the job. Now, if you're lubricating it from out here, you're not going to do what I've just done because you really can't tell how much is on there or how much you're getting in there. You're, 8-10 drops. Make sure it looks kind of wet all the way around. You can sometimes see them expand. Make sure it looks a little expanded all the way around. And that's about the best you can do if you haven't pulled apart. But with it pulled apart, you can do more because you can make sure that it's not dripping out, going everywhere, as you can see. And if you do make a mess, you can easily clean it up. Now, time to do the other side. Okay. This one doesn't look like it. Yeah, well, it's definitely not wet. Definitely not wet at all. But it doesn't look like it looks like it's somewhat expanded. But I'm going to lubricate it. Make sure it's lubricated well. Now, I've put oil on one side, but there it comes. It's coming now, coming around the other side. But I could put a good bit in there and it's not hardly moving. So these things are dry. Now I'm going to put it over here on this side. And I actually already got it coming out the other side on this. I'm going to let it sit there a minute. And then I'm going to put a little bit more on there, just make sure that it is full. Yep, there we are. It took a little bit more, but not a lot. There we are. It's nice and lubricated. Make sure it's cleaned up and dried up so that I don't get a bunch of oil all over my motor. Push that a little bit, squeeze it. Make sure I don't have anything come out. Clean up whatever I do. All right. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the end of each one of these shafts because we need oil there right now. Because this thing's moving and it don't, there we go. All right. Now, as you see, this turns well. All right, now we'll try this again. We'll put this in, and this is it's kind of a trick no matter how you do it. You've got several things to line up at once. I need to get these bolts lined up with these holes. Make sure that it's going to go in there like it should. Okay. All right, there we go. And that's in there now. At the same time, I've now got to move these brushes. Get these brushes out of the way so that the armature will go through. There we are. kind of a little tough, but you can do it. So I've done that. I'm going to go ahead and get these nuts on here, and that's going to keep all this in place so that it doesn't come apart again and I have to keep putting it back together over and over and over again. Every motor is put together differently, and every motor has different lengths on the wire and everything else. Some of them, like this one, are fairly easy to get into and mess with, and others are a real freaking pain, and they're very, very hard. And you've got to be, some of them you've got to be really careful with this. This one is this is plastic, so it holds up well. Some of them are just like a cardboard, and they're very flimsy. So Now I want to find all my little bushings, washers and bushings. Okay. So I'm going to get this on here first. And then we'll put the rubber one here. Then we're going to put all these on. All of these were in this end. It really seems kind of excessive, but from the best I can tell, this is where they all came from. That really looks crazy. It looks too much. We're going to find out. Do not let it roll off onto the floor. Make sure that you get this on the right side where it goes with this. You don't want it going across like that. It's going to be a problem. Okay, it needs to be on the same side as where these come off your motor at. Now, and as you're working that, you've got to pull this through. So I'm holding this up to make sure that my bushings don't come off there. There we are. Now, there it is. And I can even turn it with hand without, I can turn it by hand without the pulley on it. So that's a good sign that that I don't have too many on there. It's not too tight. And this thing doesn't, I mean, I barely got like maybe a millimeter and a half of room for it to move. So we're good. It really looked crazy with all those bushings and stuff on there, but it looks like that's the way it goes. Now, this side had these washers. Put those on there. Okay, we're going to tighten this up. That one goes, oh, those go on the other side. I'll put them over there in just a second. I got washers that go on the other side that I didn't get there. So, all right, you don't need to tighten these up real tight. They don't need to be deadly. They just need to be tight enough that they're not going to move. I should have put these washers on a while ago, but I was trying to keep everything together and keep it from coming apart. So, all right. There we go. Now, this isn't turning as freely. That's probably because of the way it's pushing and maybe pushing up against those. So I'm going to tighten this back down. And there we go. Didn't take much at all. And again, you don't want to put a lot of, you don't need to kill these. Just tight. There we go. And now it turns easy. So by letting the pressure off this, it allowed this to push in and push against those washers, which was creating friction. Now I've put this back on, I've tightened this back down, and it's pulled everything back and taken the pressure off this end, and it's working fine. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to plug this in because I want to see how it's going to work. And this should work. I haven't undone any electronics or anything in here. Just plug that motor in, and now I'm going to, let's see, we've got the foot pedal plugged in still from yesterday. Plug this in, turn it on. That's weird. It starts and it stops. You know what this could be? This is an electronic machine, and it's one of the early electronic machines. So it may have a type of overload. It may have a couple of overloads. One of them being heat, which this obviously doesn't have too much heat, but the other one could be overspeed. Some motors have overspeed on it, being that there is there's no resistance on this. This motor is just taking off and quickly going. So it may be kicking out on like an overspeed to keep it from tearing up the machine, tearing anything up. Because it's very constant, and it doesn't matter how hard I push this, a little bit or a lot, it runs for like a second and shuts off. It's got a constant to it. And it does it every time. It's not like a loose connection or anything, and it can still be running. So I'm betting that is a switch that's turning it off. When we put this back together and put the belt back on it, we'll find out for sure. So for now, just going to unplug it. And I'm going to keep this out because I want to do some cleaning in here and lubricating and everything. It's not real dirty. I will clean this up some, get what little bit is in there out, and then we're going to lubricate it, and then we will lubricate the top side as well. There's no reason for me to try to pull any of these electronics apart. I don't see any problems with them, and I don't see any reasons why I need to pull any of this apart to get to anything to lubricate it. I think I've got plenty of room to do that. So here we go. I got all the lint out of this. I blew it out. You just need to get it cleaned out, whether you use a brush, canned air, or whatever. Once you have the machine open to this point, it doesn't matter whether you use air or not. I used an air compressor because whatever you do, the lint's leaving. And that's the whole point, is to get rid of the lint. Now I'm looking through here and I'm getting rid of any buildup that I see, grease or whatever. All right, now I'm going to turn it over and see what needs to be cleaned under here. I've got some junk, and there's a little bit of it right there. Right here, dried up grease and oil. I want that gone. Needs to be gone. See that? Need to get that out of there. Doesn't need to be in there. Don't need to be getting caught up anywhere in anything. Needs to be gone. So they'll have just like this, a little bit of grease, a little bit of oil, and a little bit of lint, and just you need to get it out. Otherwise, it can cause you problems, get in the way of something, mess something up, break it. You have a lot of issues with it. So get as much of this out as possible. That way, your probability of problems is lessened much, much more. Hardly. The more crap you get out, the less possibility of problems. Okay. Just take the rag, put it right here, and turn this. Get a bunch of that out. You can see what came out. Bunch of black crap. Gunk. A mixture of oil, grease, and lint. I'm going to use a toothbrush and a little little bit of my alcohol, and I'm going to clean this gear up. Get the main thing that I'm trying to do is get the extra lint out of there, because these plastic gears, that lint will absolutely destroy them. Builds up in it and gets too much pressure and it'll break them. So you want that gone. Okay. All right. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, there's a little bit still in it. Not much, most of it's gone. Okay. Got that out. I'm gonna use a little bit of air, blow anything else out of it, and dry all that up. Make sure there's nothing in there that can hurt it. All right, so got that done. Got it dried out. Now I'm ready to lubricate it. I'm going to use oil and grease. I just saw a post on Facebook where someone said that on machines, if you've got metal gears, you should use a little bit of grease, and on plastic gears, you should not, because they're not designed for it. That is incorrect. All right. You need grease on this. Without grease, without lubricant, you're likely to build up more friction, more pressure, and break a gear. All right. Metal gears are less likely to break in a sewing machine from lack of grease than plastic ones are. It doesn't have to be overly coated and just really heavy on there, but it needs a little bit. Stuff like this definitely needs grease. The lint and stuff will absolutely tear this up without lubrication. So you need to lubricate your gears. You need to grease your gears, regardless of what they're made of. So I've got some felts on here, like this one right here. Make sure that I get it plenty heavy. I'm getting anything that moves. This piece right here is all this second shaft and stuff. That's all the feed system. This right here, this is part of your feed system. All right, this is your main shaft for your hook. And I got the end of the main shaft here and the end of the main shaft here. Though on this machine, that's two main things for oil. Now, I've got this felt here, but I'm also there's no felt here, but I'm gonna put a little bit of oil right here on the other end of this shaft. All right, this inner shaft right here, it's real short. Making sure I want to get oil in all of the bushings. I want it to go between the bushing and the shaft. So if I put it right next to it and I move it, it will get it in there. Okay. So far as these small gears go, I normally just put a little bit of oil on them. Sometimes I put grease on them. This has a little bit of grease on it, so the oil will keep it going. It'll rejuvenate the old grease. Oh, I can't get, there we go. Okay. I'm going to put some grease on this now. It does not need a ton of grease. A ton of grease will attract a lot of lint. You want just enough to lubricate it and protect it from the from lint destroying it. Okay, doesn't take much. Now let's look at it and see. Yep. Might have a little bit much there. Put it on this gear. All right, I'm going to put a little bit of oil on these joints here. The main thing is just to help make sure that it keeps rust down. Should it get in a wet environment or something, or a moist environment, it's going to help to keep rust down. If those get rusted, they'll lock up. That feels good. All right. Now I'm going to turn it over here, just like this. This is your what on a vehicle is called an idler pulley. It just makes sure that you've got tension. This belt is your timing belt. So I'm going to put, I don't want a ton of oil on it, but I do want to get it between the little pulley and the shaft that it spins on. I want to make sure that this continues to spin and it doesn't lock up and then my belt's just rubbing hard against it. I want it to spin so that it doesn't destroy the belt. As well as destroying the belt, it can increase heat in the motor because it'll take a lot more power to run the motor. Pushing against that, it can increase the heat in the motor and cause more wear and eventually burn it out. So, all right, we're good there. Let's make sure this works. All right, this is your clutch for your bobbin. It's working fine. I'm not going to take it apart. Okay, make sure, yeah. Yep, it's good. So, all right, now I'm going to lubricate inside the top here. So I'm looking at this this bushing on this end, and then a bushing over here on this end. All right, so that's the first things. I'm going to get a little oil over here right next to this bushing, right here, and then oil over here against this one. And I'll turn it, try to make sure I get some oil in it. I'm going to put it on the other side, on the back side of the bushings, and turn it. It doesn't have to have a whole lot of oil, just a little bit, and it'll work its way in there and help keep the machine from locking up. All right, now there's a felt right here on this where this pin's connected. Looks like it's been dry forever. I'm going to make sure it's really wet. They've got it there for a reason, meaning that it needs lubrication. There's some plastic gears down there. And that, what this is for your needle bar width, moving your needle bar back and forth. So let me turn that down. You can see that. I'm moving the needle bar back and forth, and you see it moving. Okay? If you got any questions, let me know. Let me know what questions you got about this. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on my bobbin winder just to make sure. All right, now right here, this is a felt in here. Don't take it out. Okay, it should be there. That felt should be there. Don't take it out. What you are going to do is put lubrication on it. Okay, that holds lubrication to make sure that that hook gets lubricated down in there. And the way I do it is I lubricate it several times down in. Make sure it soaks in, then I put it on the outside of it as well. On a really dirty machine, when you put it on the outside, you're going to have that oil move lint out of it. Get that lint out of there. Okay, I don't have any coming up in this one. And just in case, this right here, if you don't know, if this comes out, you need to put it back in. It's like a vinyl magnet. It is a magnet. It's made of a vinyl type material. Don't ask me how it works. And I just broke it. I just broke it. So I'm going to have to get another one. If you break them, like I just did, you need to replace it. I'll see if I can find some. I'll see if I can find some and put them in a link somewhere up on the right hand side of the video or down in the description or something. If I can find them, there will be a link there for you to get them. But there's a little bit of lint in here that I'm going to take out. Okay. Need to make sure this is clean. Constantly looking and inspecting is really important when you're working on these machines. I just found something that I want to show you while lubricating it. I'm almost done lubricating it, and I'm going to start putting it back together and get the motor in it, see if it works. But I was getting ready to start working on the needle bar area and the take-up lever, and you can see right there that thread. You can see right here all this thread here and under here. There's a ton of thread there. This can cause you a lot of problems. One of the biggest things I've seen done here is it'll continue to build up, and it will start separating this piece and pushing it out, and it can break it. If it's, depending on how it's made, it can get in there and just tighten it up and lock your machine up. I've seen that as well. So need to get tweezers, scissors, whatever it takes. Definitely tweezers and maybe scissors, and get all that out of there. And I'm going to clean that grease and stuff up off there as well. Need to get all of that out of there and then get it lubricated. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, so I got another another magnetic washer for going on the hook. I couldn't find any readily available online. I pulled this out of another machine. Probably the only place that I can recommend that you find them would be on eBay. They seem to be really hard to find. I found one part supply that had them or had a listing for them, but said that they were out of stock and they had no idea when they'd get them in. So that being said, I have waited more than 6 months on a part for a machine for a customer from that specific place, waiting on manufacturers to get it out. So the best I can recommend is going to eBay and doing a search for these magnetic washers for the hook on your machine. Anyway, I actually took this out of a Genome. I cleaned the hook area up very well. Underneath that, there was a little bit of lint and stuff in there. I got it out. You want to make sure you get that out. And there it is, and it fits good. The reason for this is if you break needles and stuff, then the broken pieces of needles are attracted to the magnet as opposed to going down in the machine. It doesn't always work, but it does work a lot. I've found quite a few after they come in for service. So if in fact you do break a needle, if you will, as soon as you do that, if you will stop your machine and pull your plate off and pull your hook out, you may well find those broken pieces of needle on this magnet. Not all machines have this magnet. Singers have it. The Genomes have it. A lot of the Kenmores have it. All right, and obviously this is just for top load bobbins, not for front or side load, just top load. So if you have a top load bobbin, you break a needle or drop one in or whatever, then pull all this out and look in there and see if you can find it. Anyway, I have gotten the needle bar lubricated. You want to, this is your take-up. This right here is your take-up assembly. It connects from your shaft to your needle bar, and in between is your take-up lever, okay? So you want to make sure that every joint that moves, all the way down to where it hooks to your needle bar, is lubricated, all right? Very well. Make sure it's lubricated good, and thread or anything like that, make sure you get that out. Now that it's lubricated and we're ready to go, then we can go ahead and put the motor in. Actually, here's some of the thread that I got out of it earlier. There was quite a bit in there. You like I said, you need you need tweezers for sure, probably some scissors. You grab hold of different strands of thread and you can work the machine back and forth like this. If you've got a longer one, then turn it backwards. Normally turn it backwards because usually it should have been turning forwards when it wrapped it up. So then a lot of times if you start turning it backwards while you're holding the thread, and you got to do it slow and take your time or it'll get caught in here, then it will start to come apart, start to unravel. Sometimes it gets stuck and it wants to reel back up, so you got to pay attention to that. And sometimes you just got to pull as many loops into it and start cutting them, whatever it takes. Some of them, you can take them apart very easily. A lot of the Singers you can. This one, you can take it apart, but it's not a simple process. In order to do that, you're going to have to remove a lot of the stuff on the front of this to do that. And I didn't want to go through that process, so I took a little bit more time and just worked it out. If you've got any questions, let me know. We are going to go next to the motor and get that put back in and then test it and make sure it works. I know it does, but I'm still going to test it. So here we go. I did forget, pay attention to see if there's any felts. Like this one has 2 felts. You can see 1 felt here, and there's another one right here. Okay, make sure that you get the felts good. Again, anything that moves, whether it moves up and down, back and forth, rotates, whatever, you want it lubricated. That goes for the take up lever as well. All right, definitely down here at the bottom, they tend to stick a lot down here, so make sure you get plenty of lubricant down there. And then usually up at top, get some in there. I like to lubricate the spring. There's a spring that gets depressed from your pressure adjuster. Make sure that you get that lubricated, because you want that moving up and down on the shaft real well. And basically anything that moves, make sure this area is cleaned out good and everything's lubricated. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, so we're putting the motor back together. Make sure that you get this strainer leaf back on here. Just make sure that the wire doesn't get pulled and tear anything up in here. All right, so very important. Sometimes it's kind of tough. You'll probably have to take some pliers and put it on there and squeeze it. If it's got indentions or whatever where the wire was, just put it right back where it was and it'll be the easiest. All right, now we're going to put this back together. Got to put this on here and get it back in there just like it went. Put the nuts back on it. Or actually, these don't go on yet. This goes on, and it goes on this way, but something doesn't seem to be right. There we go. Get that crud out of there. We don't need it in there anymore. Okay. All right. Make sure that's on there. Get these nuts back on there. All this dried silicone or whatever it is out of the way. I know that they put it on there to kind of lock the nuts in place. I really don't see that it's necessary. If you have problems with them staying on, then you could use some Loctite. Make sure you get the blue Loctite, not the red. Red Loctite will lock it on there for good forever. So, and it won't take much, just a hair, but honestly I don't think it's needed. But do make sure that they're fairly tight. You don't have to kill them. As you notice, I'm not using a socket or anything. I'm just using these needle nose pliers and tightening them up the best I can. Okay, and then we want to get this back in there. This cord will go to the bottom. Okay, just like that. Just have to kind of work it in there. Get this piece. Make sure this piece goes around this right there. All right, and then we got that. I'm gonna have to put this pulley back on there here in just a second. Get the stuff that I don't need right now out of my way. All right. I'm gonna just get them started. I'm not gonna tighten them up. I still gotta get the pulley and the belt on there. Make sure that it's pushed all the way up by hand. All right, don't use the screws to tighten it up and push it in. If it's getting caught on something in the back and you put excessive force on it, you can break something. So make sure that you're able to get it pushed up by hand. And if you're having problems doing that, you need to look in here and check and see what it's hanging up on. All right. Now, let's get that pulley on here. So I'll need that, and I'll need the Allen wrench that goes with it. Make sure this is the right one. Yes, it is. Okay, and right here I can see where that Allen wrench, where that was sitting. Let me see if I can get in here. All right, you can kind of see that right there. You can see a little bit where the set screw was sitting, the inside of it. So I'm going to try to get it right back in the same place. Okay, so set that on there about where I think it goes. And then I'm going to just kind of tighten it up a little bit, move it back and forth. And I should be able to kind of feel it. There it is. There it went. Okay. It fell into place because it's kind of scarred it up. So that should be the exact place that it was in. Now you want to make dang sure, you need to make sure you got the right size. You want to make sure that you get this plenty tight. And if it's not getting tight, then you definitely want to put Loctite on this. All right. In fact, no, this one's good. That one's tightening up good. So now we'll put the belt on it. If I can find what I did with it, right here. Just leave it on its side. See if I can do it this way. Okay, so it's on there, but it's not tight. So as you notice, this moves. Okay, so I'm not gonna, this has cogs on it. This belt has cogs on it, so it doesn't have to be extremely tight. It just has to be tight enough that these cogs can't slip. Earlier when I was twisting this, you heard it popping. What you heard popping was these cogs slipping either here or here, one of the two places, I don't know which. So I'm going to pull it just enough to get that straightened out. Like I said, it does not need to be real tight. If you get too much pressure on this, you get it too tight. You're going to put too much pressure on the motor, and you put too much pressure on that motor and it'll cause it to slow down, and then it's going to pull too much amperage trying to push harder, trying to reach its full potential, which it can't do because it's not a big enough motor, and it will overheat the motor and eventually burn the motor up. So you don't want it real tight. You never ever ever want these motors too tight. Now the screws, on the other hand, you want to make sure that you get them tight enough, and I don't think I've got the right size screwdriver for this. So let me see if I can find the bigger screwdriver like this. Okay, you want to make dang sure that these are tight. Push in on them pretty hard, turn them. Now, depending on the machine, depending on your strength, be careful You don't want to strip anything out. Okay, so now I've got that tight. All right, I'm going to turn this, see how it feels. Man, look at that. Feels good. Now, you're going to feel a good bit more resistance once the motor's on there. It's not going to feel free like it did, and that's fine, just as long as it's not really hard to turn. Okay, now I'm going to move all this out of the way. I'm going to plug my motor back in where it was at. You got to make sure that you get in there right, and this will only go one way. You notice, if I can show it to you. Okay, this side is rounded, this side is flat. So the female is made the same way. So you got to make sure you get it in there right, correctly. All right, so you have to look at it and see the round side is to the inside. So I'm going to turn that so that the round side is to the inside. Then we're going to plug it in. Make sure it pops in there. Make sure it gets in there good. All right, now I'm going to plug this in. We're going to see what it'll do. Move the camera a wee bit. Get my foot pedal to the floor where I operate it with my foot. And if you remember earlier, it would go and stop and go and stop. So that could have been due to a lot of things. So it could have been over speeding. I don't think that these older machines had any way of detecting whether the stitch was being made or not. On newer machines, it might stop because of that. I don't think that they have that, but we're going to find out. All right, so got that plugged in, and I have a customer. All right, I'm back. We got the motor hooked up. Got it put back in. Got it hooked up. I'm gonna have to make sure that I keep this out of the way. I don't want it getting mixed up off over here in any of this. So I'll probably put a clamp or something, or a tie on it and hold that over. But right this second I don't need to. So let's see. Let's get this up here. Let's turn it on. Light came on. I heard it come on. Let's see what happens. So that's cool. There it is, running great. Doing quite well. Sounds good. I might loosen the motor a little bit, see if I can get a little bit more speed out of it. In fact, I think I'll do that right now. That's doesn't feel real tight, but sometimes it doesn't take much. This isn't a real big motor, so loosen that a little bit. Okay. Now I got more room in there, looser. Let's just make sure that we're not gonna have any problems. It might have sped up a hair maybe, but that's it. I want to make sure that, yeah, okay. So if I hold that and I hit the motor, it doesn't start clicking through the belt. That was the main thing. Now that I've done that, I just wiped that right there off, this black crap. We need to get this out of here because it'll lock the machine up. It's coming. Whoop. It's coming from right here. So I'm going to wipe this off. Ow! That was a light bulb, and a hot light bulb at that. All right. All right, wipe that off. And actually, I don't know if you can see it. I think where it actually came from was, it looks like it, from right here. This spot right here, and there's a little oil hole there. Yeah, that's nasty. You can see it right there. So that is where it came from. So I'm going to put some oil in it. All right, my camera cut off while I was putting oil in that and cleaning it out. But basically, you want to keep oiling it. Add oil to it and run it, and add oil to it and run it until all that black crap comes out. I want you to see, you can see right, you can see in there, you can see all that stuff where it's thrown it off as it was running. Okay. See that? You've got to get all that out of there. That's a mixture of old oil that's drying up, lint, dirt, and just overall gunk, whatever else has gotten in there. You've got to put a little oil wherever that's coming from. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. Any place on the machine. It just happens to be that it was coming out of here, right there. You can kind of see a little black around that hole. Okay, just so happens that that's where it was coming from on this machine this time. And you can see that right there. Okay, that's where it was coming from. I got pretty much all of it out without taking it apart. I probably can't get any more, but I got it cleaned up and 99% of it out. If you don't get that out, it will lock your machine up. It'll dry up and it'll lock your machine up. Okay, so very important to, if you see that on your machine, whatever machine it is. Older machines are very prone to it. So make sure that you get that out, cleaned up and stuff, all right? I'm going to clean this up out of the machine. I got to get all this crap out of here now where I made a mess. I don't know that you can see anymore. You can see some of it down there where it came out. All that gunk down there after I'd already cleaned it up. And I got to clean all that out now. So, and you can see little heavy specks. That's actually lint and pieces of thread that came out while I was doing this, because that was cleaned up pretty good. So absolutely imperative that you get that cleaned up and cleaned out. All right. If you got any questions, let me know. All right, I got it cleaned back up. So now we're going to put it back together. It's running great, sounds great. We'll put it back together and test it and see how it does. All right, make sure that you clean all this out. Get all this cleaned up real good. You don't want any of that going back into your machine. You've just got it cleaned up and lubricated and everything. You don't want it back up in there. If you have any plastic that's broke, then you want to make repairs to that so that it doesn't continue to deteriorate. This one looks good. So I've cleaned most of it up. We've got a spot right here that's just dried up and varnished and some other stuff here, so I want to clean that out. I've got denatured alcohol, and as you can tell, it's cleaning it up really good. You can put a little bit on there, let it soak, let it sit, and then clean up anything else that you think you want to get cleaned up a little bit, and then come back to it. And it's sitting on there will help to loosen it up and remove any excess. If it's dry, you don't absolutely have to remove it. I just like to do it. I like to make it look nice for my customers. It's a matter of what you want. But the loose stuff, the nasty oil that's dripping and stuff, and all the lint and stuff, you want that out of there, because that can get back up into your machine. And that's the point. That's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of this, is getting all that crap out of there. So once you got it out, then you can put it back together. Let's see here, what size screws? Somewhat long. So I should have these two screws right here. Make sure that you know which screws go where. Otherwise you may be pulling it back apart to because one of your screws is too short and doesn't fit. So whether you've got to mark them or whatever, I can usually just remember myself, so I don't have to do that. If I don't remember for sure, then I'll start putting other stuff together and eliminate the ones that I know don't go there. So, but normally I don't have that problem. All right, so now I've got the bottom back on. I'm going to put these two big screws back in first. Maybe. A little difficult doing this with one hand. I don't know why I did that. You can see that just fine, just like that. I was holding it up so you could see it, but I don't have to. All right, you want to make sure, like I've got a towel under this, you want to make sure you don't get anything caught up in there. I'm not tightening any of these up yet. I'm just getting them on there and up close, because if you tighten them up before you get all your screws in, sometimes it won't be in the exact right spot, and you'll have one or two screws that you can't get back in. So then you've got to go around loosening them all. And for the most part, it's not a big deal, other than the fact that it just takes up time. And I think I just put one in the wrong place. Oh. Yeah, I think it goes in there. I forgot how deep that was. Okay. And I'll show you what I mean by I put one in the wrong place here in just a second. We get the rest of these tightened up, because that one is in the right, that one's got a screw in it, and so it'll be fine. I'm fixing to have to take it out, and you're fixing to see what I'm talking about. All right. It's this one right here. And if you notice, the head's a little bit smaller, okay? I've got two of them. These, 90% of the time, if you have two, the heads are just a little bit different, a little smaller or whatever, and you have a needle bar door that opens and has screws that hold the hinge on, that's where they go. So, and I wasn't paying attention, I grabbed the wrong one. And you've absolutely got to have those right screws, because if you don't, 90% of the time that door won't close right, won't properly close. Sometimes they won't close at all. Okay, so I've got that on. Let's get the back on it. And I've got a little dirt in here. I'm gonna clean that up. I put a little bit of that alcohol in this rag, and that alcohol will stay wet on the rag for a good bit. So I'm just using that and wiping that off. It's carbon and stuff from the motor, from the brushes on the motor. And you don't have to, but I like to clean it up. I like to make it look nice. Again, like I said, for my customers, they may or may not ever see it. Just depends. I have customers that take their stuff apart, and when they can't figure it out, then they bring it to me. And I have other customers that don't attempt it. That every time they have a problem, they just bring it to me. And that's, either one's fine. Just so long as they don't take it apart to just really disassemble it and have no idea what they're doing or how to put it back together. That's when it becomes a problem. And I've dealt with that a couple of times where people bring machines to me that are just in pieces, and it takes me a long time to figure out which piece goes where. And that gets kind of expensive for them because it takes a lot of time for me if there's lots of stuff that I didn't pull apart. And now I've got to figure out how it all goes back together. All right. Got that back on. Actually, I don't know that I want to put that on yet. That's I think I want to put the top on before I do that. So, and before I put the top on, I'm going to put the front door on. So this is the Neil bar door that I was talking about. All right, I get those two screws that go in here. Maybe. There we go. Sometimes these two screws can be hard to get started. Now, I'm tightening this up a little bit more so that it will stay there. Okay. I'm not going to tighten either one of these up real tight. Well, actually on this one, I can tighten them a little tighter. A lot of times you got to have the top on before that'll actually shut good. But this one is good, so leave those kind of loose enough that it takes a little bit of pressure to move it. Get it in place, make sure it shuts good, and then you can tighten it up, just like that. All right, now for the top. All right, here we go. So, still got feet and stuff in here. Make sure this is blown out, halfway decently clean. Okay. Now we'll lay this back on there. See, there we go. Just like that. Okay. Now, this thing isn't closing right. You see it's hitting right here. That's because I don't have those hinges right. So I'm going to loosen the hinges just a hair, not much. Just enough so that I can put some pressure on it and force it to move. without tearing up the door. Just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to leave that there because this still looks kind of weird. So I may have to do a little bit more work to it yet. A little more adjusting on it, we'll find out. All right, now, as you remember, there was a long screw and a short screw in this. The short screw was over here on my left, just like this. Maybe somewhere. There it is. And then the long screw was over on the right. There it is. Okay. That's working, but it's pushing down a little bit. I'm gonna see if I can raise that a hair. Okay, so all I did was the top over here was fine. It was this over here that wasn't. And so the door was kind of cockeyed, so I pushed the bottom this way and it lifted this without moving this. So, and now I'm going to make sure it's nice and tight so that it can't move out of place. Just like that. All right, there we go. And I'll put this on. And I think we'll be good to test it. All right, so now we're going to put now we got the top and stuff on. I'm going to put the end on here. Got that, it popped up there. And this screw wouldn't fall out, so it was put on there so it wouldn't come out too easily. So we're good there, and that's on. Now, make sure, yep, okay. Now we need to put the bobbin case in. Okay. All right, so if you haven't already, you want to inspect the bobbin case. Make sure that either it's not, if you want to inspect it for damage. If it's damaged, you want to repair the damage or change the bobbin case, whatever works best for you. You can use some sandpaper, 800 grit sandpaper, and remove the damage on it. If you've got needle hits where you've got big pieces of the plastic sticking up, you can take a utility knife and just carefully scrape those off. You don't want to dig real deep into it. You just want to carefully scrape those off, and then you can take the sandpaper and go over it to smooth it out. If you've got a lot of damage to it, you might want to just see about replacing your bobbin. So, all right, we're going to drop this in here, and this, I want you to notice, let's see. Okay, see how this lines up? This should never go over the top of this, okay? It should come up to it and it should hit. And you see right here how that is, okay? That's a spring that allows that to push and then come back, okay? And that's kind of all, that's all the movement that you want in it. You don't want a whole lot of movement, and you don't want it tight. Absolutely, you don't want it tight or you won't sew. So you get that in there correctly. Then you can put your needle plate back on. Make sure it's not damaged, and actually this one is. I've got to fix it. All right, it's not horrible damage, but there's a little bit of damage to it. So I'm going to get this fixed and get that put on. All right, so you can use a drill. That's what I've got, is a drill, or you can use a like a rotozip or something. You need a diamond type bit, cone shaped like this is, and you're going to start by putting this here. Then we're going to go inside it like this. Okay, turn it over. Do the same thing. Go in it, just like that. Now I want to make sure that this top, I'm not going to take all the damage off of here, but I want to make sure it's smooth so that it can't catch any fabric. Okay, now what I was doing was making sure that there's no small gouges from needles or scrapes or scratches in there that is going to grab that thread, whether it's just going to grab it and rip it or it's going to grab it and cause tension. Okay, that's what I've done. The damage isn't going to all be gone. It's not just going to magically disappear with that, but you're going to make it so that it cannot grab that thread or tear that thread up, or it can't grab your fabric and tear your fabric up. That's what you're trying to do. Okay, so once that's done, then we can put it back on. All right, put that on, making sure that your bobbin case is in the right place, and then put your screw back in it. And if something doesn't seem right, if something doesn't seem like it's going back together right, don't tighten this up. If that bobbin case is out of place and you tighten that up, you can tear it up, you can destroy it. So I need a screwdriver. All right, and then I think I told you that this had a metal bobbin in it. We're going to replace it. We're going to put a plastic bobbin in. You need a plastic bobbin in this, not a metal one. All right, we're going to take the little bit of thread that's left on this bobbin. We're going to put it over here on this one. So this little spool pin for winding bobbins comes with this. I'm going to stick that in there, and I'm going to put this metal bobbin right here, just like that. Now, I'm going to take this. This shows the thread comes here and goes this way. I'm going to do it opposite because I want to cross the thread to make sure that the thread doesn't come off. Okay, because sometimes thread will pop out of this. So, all right. Now I'm going to thread this bobbin just like this. Right across there. And put it in there. Except it didn't go. All right, we're going to try that again. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm going to kick that over. This little knob. This little knob on this pulls out. Turn the machine on. And away we go. Maybe. There it is. Okay, take that off. Take that back down. Kick this over. Back in. And we're good. Now let's get this bobbin threaded in here. All right. Okay, so the thread's going to be to me. I cut the excess off that was under there. Now this thread's going to be to me and to the right. I'm going to drop it in there, bring this around, get it in the groove, put my finger on the bobbin, pull, and then it's going to come over here. I'm going to make sure it's got some tension on it. Then I'm going to put the cover back on it. Okay. Now, there we go. I'm going to put the needle in it and put the foot back on it. Okay. This needle, the flat side goes to the back. Okay. So get that in there, get it up in there. Be careful not to poke yourself. We got that. Now we'll put the foot on here, raise this up. Well, maybe we'll put it on there. Something like this. Okay, don't over tighten that. Now we need to thread the machine. So I will grab some thread here. All right, so I'm gonna put the thread on here just like that, and then put the spool pin holder or spool pin cover on it. Bring it out, and I'm going to push it down into there, past that little pin there. We're going to come underneath. Now, make sure that your presser foot is lifted. Okay, it's got to be lifted because it opens up your tension discs. And on this machine, you come to the left side first, down, around, then to the left side of that take-up lever. See the take-up lever? You come to the left side of it, then around so you're on the right side. Make sure it comes through it and in it all the way to the end. Then we'll thread that down there. Then this here threads. And you've got a small place thread holder right here that you thread, and then the thread goes front to back on this machine. Okay, there it is. Make sure the thread doesn't wrap that needle. Okay. And now I'm going to pull this lower thread up. There it is. Pulled up fine. Pulled up great. Get it underneath. Just like that. Whoop. Well, I messed something up. I pulled the wrong thread. Okay, so I'm going to hold this upper thread and I'm going to pull that. There we go. Now we're good. I let the upper thread pull out of the lower thread and it didn't pull it up. So now we are ready to sew. Just need something to sew. All right, so I got this cloth right here. We have a black and a white thread. Put that down. Make sure that the upper thread is under the foot. It is. I want to make sure that I have the right stitch set. So I'm going to check that. All right, so we're sitting on 10. And if I look up here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but 10 is a straight stitch, and it's right in the center of the presser foot. That's what I want. Okay, so we're good there. I'm going to go ahead and see what this will do. All right, here we go. Make sure I've got plenty of, yeah, there we go. I'm going to put the pressure on the presser foot about 2.5. Oh, you know what though? I didn't set my tension setting on 0. So I'm going to turn that up to a little over 4. We'll see what kind of, how we messed it up on the bottom. All right, there it is. Cut the thread. Okay, so it didn't make a huge deal, but I do want to show it to you. So this is the front, obviously. See if I can get some light over here. You can kind of see this is where I started and this is where I finished. First of all, you can't see the lower thread coming up on this side, but over here you can see the black coming through. That's the lower thread. It's coming up. It's not coming all the way up, but it's coming up into the fabric, making the stitch just like it should. And you can see that. Now let's turn it over. And this is where I finished. This is where I finished. This is after I had after I'd adjusted the tension. Okay, now again, so this is after I adjusted the tension, and you can see, and I can feel it. It's very smooth. Feels good, right? I move this over, and I look at it here, and you can see that the upper thread, the white thread, is just kind of looping, right? It's just looping the black thread. Okay, it's not pulling it up through it. You can see that real good right there. You can see how it's just looping, allowing that black thread to just run a straight line through it. That's not a good stitch. Stitches like that, you can just yank the lower thread out, and then the upper thread is going to come right out with it. But over here, after I adjusted the tension, you can see it looks good. You know, it's not looped up like the other side is. It's nice and smooth, looks good. So I think you can see the difference between those two. And then after I set the tension, you can see the thread coming up through there, whereas over here you can't. Huge difference, huge difference. Now you don't want this looping on top neither. If it's looping on top, that's a problem, but it's not. This is like perfect. This is not a good stitch. Okay, if you have any questions on the stitches, let me know. Now I'm going to do some more stitches, a couple other stitches. We'll do a zigzag and some other stuff. So zigzag is 15. I'm going to set it on 15. All right. There we go. Here we go. And well, I didn't have that out. So you can see it's on 15. Here we go. Go start off slow. lift it up, pull it out, cut it. All right, so this is the top. I haven't looked at it yet. We're gonna see it together. It's pulling kind of tight on it. There's a couple of things I can do. I can play with tension and get this out. I can make my stitch length longer and that would get it out. How are we looking here? So the lower stitch is pulling the upper stitch through pretty hard. On the zigzag, it's not really that big of a deal. It's still a good stitch, but I mean, it doesn't look good, right? So especially if you can see it, if you can see both sides, this isn't good. On this, because it's already pulling and puckering the fabric, I would loosen the tension on the the lower tension. So I'd open my bobbin case up and I'd loosen that tension up some. I'm not going to. I'm fine with this. The people that own this mainly just do straight stitches, so it's not a big deal, but I like to test it and make sure I'm not going to skip stitches, make sure that there's no major problems. Now I'm going to do one more stitch. I'm going to do a specialty stitch. I'm going to do 32. I'm going to do this 32 right here. See how it looks, see how the machine works. So we're going to do 32. All right. And then I should have cut that, not pulled it. Anyway, that's you shouldn't pull thread like that. If you've got it can mess up your project anyway, but this is just test thread, so here we go. Or test fabric. So now you see how the fabric's moving back and forth, right? How it's, because it's making that special stitch. We're just going to do a straight line all the way down, then we'll pull it out and look at it. See what it looks like. All right. Cut that. Now, here's the top of it. Top looks great. Top looks absolutely great. Let's look at the back. Okay. The back's pulling a little bit, or no, it's not. Yeah, it is. In a couple of spots, it's pulling the white a little bit. Again, not a big deal. The way you on this machine, because it's puckering it, you'd loosen the bobbin case. If it wasn't puckering it, if it wasn't puckering up like that, then all I do is just increase this tension. But if I increase this tension, it's going to cause more pucker. Okay, so I need to release some tension off here in order to make it not pucker. Or, like I said, I can make the stitch length longer, but it's gonna change your look. So let me know if you have any questions. Oh, I want to put this back on a straight stitch. I want to see if reverse works. Well, it does. It absolutely does, because we just watched it going back and forth. But I still want to do it here and make sure. Okay, there it is. It works fine. All right, there it is. Now, if you need any tools or anything, up here on the right, I will have a link that you can click on. It goes to my website, and it'll have tools and stuff that you need for doing this. I'll have the bobbin case on it for this machine. And the bobbins, these are class 15s. I'll have, you'll be able to order bobbins if you need them, whatever you need for it. If you need help, if you have problems, whatever you need help, leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. Right down here, kind of on the right side, next to the lights, it says thanks. If you have gotten if you've gotten value from this video and you appreciate it, you can click on that and thank me with whatever works for you. $10, I think you can do $5 or whatever works for you if I've helped you. All right, y'all have a great day and thank you for watching the video.